Live from America's heartland, this is the Daily Truth Report with your host, Noah Christopher.
Hey, all right, everybody. Welcome back to the Daily Truth Report, and we are live right now, and I'm so excited to welcome a new face to the show. Jim Bazzani from Caleb and Brown is joining us tonight. I think you're really going to enjoy this one. I'll set up the introduction here in just a minute, but first, I just want to say welcome to the show, Jim. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on, Noah. Excited to be here.
Excellent. Well, we're very happy to have you here. For those that don't know, let me just set the stage a little bit. We're going to talk about crypto tonight, and we're going to talk about something that so many of you have been asking me about over the last 5 years. I've been talking about crypto for at least 5 years now. I've been having our good friend Bo Polney on the show, and we've talked about gold and silver and crypto, and a lot of you understand gold and silver. You've been buying some of that your whole life. You get it. You know how to do it. You can call up your local gold and silver coin dealer in town, go talk to them. But, every time I talk about crypto, I always get people that email me and say, look, I get it. I can see this is the future. I see where this is going. It's eventually going to hit Wall Street. I'd like to be early on it. But quite frankly, the whole thing just intimidates me. I don't really trust that I'm just going to put these coins in cyberspace on some sort of a keychain device and throw that in my safe. I don't get it. That makes me scared. I'm not confident that in 5 years when I go to check that thing that they're still going to be there or that it's even going to power up. I mean, it's like an old phone that, you put in the drawer and then it never powers on again. And so I've had so many of you email me and say, how do I do this safely? How do I do it without falling for scams? And could I just have someone I could, work with? I don't like the idea of putting all my money on Coinbase and I can't even get a hold of someone or my account gets shut down or I get locked out or whatever. And so long story short, I've so excited. I first announced this last Friday. And since then, the response has just been incredible from all of you that I finally have the solution. And so the solution is this company called Caleb and Brown. And we're going to talk about all of it tonight. We're going to take your questions. This is going to be a big kind of an ask me anything. If you have any questions, we will definitely put those up on the screen so you can put them in the chat. But we'll try to get to all that. And we're just going to talk through what is this. And I'm going to tell you how I finally have the solution where you can buy crypto. You can talk to a human being, not only talk to a human, but you're going to get assigned your own personal broker, just like it was our whole lives, right? I could just call my stockbroker. You can finally do that now with crypto. You can do it safely, secured, insured, regulated, everything. You can email them. You can talk through strategy. It's really great. So, Jim, that's my introduction, but the people want to hear from you. So let's just open it up. Let's assume that people watching here. Oh, actually, before we do that, I want to make sure we're connected here. If you're hearing my voice, can you drop a comment? Say, I hear you. I see you. You're coming through okay. We are live right now on YouTube. We're live on Rumble. We're live on Twitter X. So if you're with us, I'm seeing a lot of people connected, but you never know with technology. So will you just shoot me a comment and say, loud and clear, 5x5, whatever you want to do. Let me know that we're connected and coming through okay. I would really appreciate that. Also, always fun to hear where people are tuning in from. So let me know your state or your country. Jim, where are you tuning in from?
I'm tuning in from Melbourne, Australia. So
yeah,
it's probably a little further away from most people. It's my morning here right now, which probably a bit weird for people on the call in the States to hear. So Melbourne, Australia.
That's very cool. And I love that accent. I wish I had a cool accent like that. That's awesome. Well, let's start with that. Caleb and Brown is a company that I've heard of you guys for a long time. I've been, in the crypto space and I've certainly been aware of you, but I like to take my time on these things, make sure companies stand the test of time, make sure they don't have scandals like FTX and Sam Bankman fraud and all of those things, and make sure they don't go under, or they don't lose customers' funds. And so I've just been watching you guys, and you've just hit it out of the park. I mean, you've been absolutely incredible. Never a single issue, never a single scandal, never a single dollar of customer funds lost. And you've been doing it since 2016, which is almost the start of crypto. I mean, that's back up there with Satoshi. So tell us a little about, you're in Melbourne, Australia. The company's in Australia, right? Tell us a little bit about the company.
Yeah, so I mean, you gave a really good overview of it, I must say, but you're exactly right. So we're headquartered here in Australia. It's a cryptocurrency brokerage, so it's very different and distinct to what you'd normally see in the market. How you usually invest in crypto is through, an exchange where it's purely a transaction relationship. So the business really started back in 2016 because we saw a need for people really interested in crypto. They wanted to get exposure to this asset class. But as you mentioned before, it's a really difficult space to get started in. There's a lot of intricacies around what assets do I invest in. It was really difficult even back then to invest safely and custody your assets. So the business really started back in 2016 with the executive team that is still here today around helping friends and family invest. And then that grew into friends and friends. And then naturally the business really grew that way. And really the core ethos around personalized service, providing an actual customer support obsessed service that we still see today is exactly the same as how it started back in 2016. So the business has grown from anywhere from 4 or 5 employees to now we're over 60 plus. As you mentioned, we're based here in Melbourne, Australia, but I want to be clear that most of our clients are US based. So I would say around 80% of our clients are US based. And we're actually in the final stages of opening up an office within the US as well. So most of our brokerage handles US clients and matters every day. We have brokers and account managers that work in the US along with most of our compliance team. But yeah, really the main overview of the service is that, as Noah mentioned, every single person that signs up gets their own dedicated broker who's there to help assist you in whatever part of the crypto journey you're in. So if you're someone that's completely fresh to the space, you're really interested, but you don't know how to get started, you'll have an expert broker here that can help guide your hand through the process, explain what this asset class is, what are the main assets, how to get started, what are the main things to look out for. So we not only help clients invest, but we also help educate them along in the journey. Because look, if you're going to invest in this asset class, which is still inherently risky, we really want you to be as informed as possible. So we really help those people that are at the start of their crypto journey, but we're really also quite beneficial for people that are on the other end of the spectrum that maybe are considered crypto native. There's a whole range of elements as part of our service, whether that's custody, whether that's our best in class liquidity, whether that's being able to off ramp clearly and without limits with us. There's a whole range of benefits for any kind of crypto investor. But that's really the general overview. It's a white glove personalized service. As Noah mentioned, incredibly similar to how you would have used a stock broker in the past. You actually have your own broker who you can call, who you can contact, who knows you for you. That's one of the biggest things as well, is every client will be different. Some will have a really high risk profile. Some will have, won't want to take many risks. Some are interested in just Bitcoin. Some are interested in a whole range of altcoins, right? So it's really important to get that broker because they'll know you for you and they'll have the context of you as an investor throughout your entire journey with us. So that's a brief overview, but happy to get into more detail.
No, that's great. I love that last part because it would be one thing. It would be good even if you could just know that you could talk to a human being. I mean, you can't do that in any other part of crypto. I mean, try calling someone at Coinbase. You'll never talk to anybody, especially if you have a problem. So just talking to a human is great. But what you guys have done is really taken it up a level because it's building that relationship. For the most part, you're going to get assigned a personal broker, and for the most part, unless they're sleeping or whatever, because people have to sleep, and there is a time difference. But unless they're sleeping, when you call, you're going to talk to that same broker. So what's going to happen is they're going to, when you first come on board, they're going to have a call with you, and they're going to learn, where are you on this journey? Do you know a lot about crypto? Do you know nothing about crypto? And they're going to learn about you, and they're going to build a file on you, a mental file. But they're going to know, when you call in, when Noah calls in, yeah, I know who Noah is. He's been in crypto for a long time. He gets it, but he wants help with X, Y, and Z. He wants help talking about his exit strategy. He wants help with my view on XRP. I know when Janet calls in, she's Bitcoin only. I know that. When someone else calls in, they've got a high risk tolerance or they've got a low risk tolerance. So I really love that you not only get to talk to a human, but you get to talk to the same human. And then, just like anything, you're building that business relationship. And so it just gets better over time.
Absolutely right. Our business has completely grown on building long-term sustainable relationships. And you're exactly right as well in the sense that, look, this space is forever fast moving. There's always things going on. And we know that our clients are busy with their day-to-day lives, right? So that's where your broker really comes in, because we live and breathe everything that happens in this space. So if there's something that major that happens in the XRP space, well, we know who to contact. We know our main clients that are interested in that asset. We have a lot of clients interested in XRP, but it means that we can continually keep you informed and do the hard work of staying up to date with everything, so our clients don't always have to. And that just ensures that, look, when the time comes to make a decision on your current asset that you hold with us, or you even, if you hold yourself, you're at least as informed as possible when it comes to making that decision. So you're exactly right in the sense that we have clients that have been with us for 5, 6, 7+ years now, and they've had the same broker throughout that entire journey. So you build not only a professional relationship, but almost a personal one as well. A lot of our brokers have traveled to the US many times and met their clients in person. And that's really why we're going to open up an office as well, because we want to have more of those face-to-face interactions. But ultimately, that's really how the business has grown, through word of mouth. People love the service, and how it's continued to grow today.
Yeah, that's great. Our guest today is Jim Bazzani from Caleb and Brown, my new partner, and so happy to be working with these guys. And what we're doing tonight is we're just kind of walking through the basics. And we're also going to open this up to any questions you have. So we're kind of calling it an Ask Me Anything. If you have any questions at all about crypto or getting started or services at Caleb and Brown, or how is it safe? How do I know it's safe? We're going to try and cover a lot of that, and we might cover your question. But if you have a question, type it in the chat box. I'm monitoring those. We're live on YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter. And I'll flash those up on the screen if you have any, or maybe we'll do a good enough job and we'll cover them all as we go. But Jim, I think I saw somewhere you said 80% of your customers are US based, which doesn't surprise me. We're pretty big over here. But I think I saw you're active in, I think, like over 100 countries, over 35,000 users at this point. Is that, I mean, that's a lot of people. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's a little more these days. It's probably upwards of around 42, 43,000. But you're exactly right. So we operate in a whole range of different countries. As you mentioned, the US is our main market, but we service a lot of clients within Europe as well. Obviously, Australia is a pretty big market for us. And in terms of how it actually works, most of our brokers are based here in Australia. So the Australian and US time zones actually do match up pretty well. Usually our early mornings match up really well with the later or mid-afternoons in the US. And that's when most of our brokers are doing their calls, in our early mornings here. But as you mentioned, look, they do need to sleep at some point. They do work really hard and long hours. But ultimately, if a client is based in the US and it's midnight here in Australia, there's always someone managing their inbox. So let's just say you need to get a trade executed, or you need something answered really urgently. You can always email your broker, even if it's the middle of the night here in Australia. And those concerns and those emails get answered by our account managers within the US. So it allows us to operate in a 24/7 nature, which is important, right? Because the crypto space is 24/7. It's not like the stock market where there's a close and start time. This market's always moving. So that's how we handle the different time zones. But yeah, we're certainly a global presence at this point. And as you mentioned at the start, we've been around since 2016. So we're a mature business. We've been through bear markets, bull markets. We know how to operate at the peak of times to ensure that any client trades still get executed even when there's high demand. We're also really valuable in the times when maybe it's a bear market and people aren't quite sure what to do with their portfolio. It's really valuable to have someone there that's at least got the perspective of having gone through these cycles before. So again, another valuable part of being able to speak to a broker.
No, that's fantastic. And I'm taking notes as we go. I've got a list of follow-up questions for you. But before I get to those, let me throw this up on the screen. If you're watching this and you're like, this sounds amazing, I'm going to put it at the very top of the screen. I'll also put it in the comments below. But if you'd like to see more of this, I've created a custom link. So it's really easy. You just type in SafeWithNoah.com. And, I thought safety was so important in doing crypto. I mean, what could be more important than making sure your funds are safe and they're not going to be subject to hacks or scams or frauds or anything like that? So if you go to SafeWithNoah.com, link on the screen, let me share my screen here, and it's going to take you to this page right here. This is kind of our joint page here. It's got my name at the top, and it's got Caleb and Brown at the top. So when you see this page right here, you're going to know you're in the right spot. So if you're listening to this and you're like, all right, no, I get it. I this is what I've been looking for. Say no more. You can go right to this right now and type in SafeWithNoah.com. It's going to take you to this page, and then you can scroll through this. There's a lot of great info on here. We'll cover a lot of this tonight. We'll probably touch on a lot of these things, but there's probably a lot more here than we'll have time to get to tonight. We'll have Jim back on the show many times in the future here, and we'll talk crypto markets in general and everything else. But when you get to this page, you'll know you're in the right spot. You can look around. You can read all the reviews. A perfect 5.0 rating on Google, which is almost unheard of in any business. A near perfect 4.9 on Trustpilot, and then you can read some of these that they've got them just coming in down here. Pretty incredible. So I wanted to get that up on the screen for you, and just jot that down. SafeWithNoah.com. I'll put it in the chat too. But that'll take you right to my custom page. You don't have to worry about some big long URL web link. It's just nice and easy. So for anybody that wants to grab that right now, you can. But we'll keep talking because I've got a lot of additional questions. Jim, you mentioned obviously you're most active in the United States, or that's where most of your customers are. Since I first started talking about this 2 or 3 days ago, a couple people have asked me, okay, are you licensed here? Are you, what does that mean? You're based in Australia. If I really need you, can I find you? Do you have registrations here? Can you speak to that a little bit? I mean, because I know you guys are highly regulated, highly secured, and I think actually Australia is one of the toughest markets for regulation of cryptocurrency. So being based in Australia is pretty good in that regard, for knowing that you guys face some pretty stringent regulation and you're fully compliant. So I'll kick it over to you. Maybe you can speak on that topic a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So as you mentioned, we are an Australian business. So we're governed by a governing body called AUSTRAC here in Australia. We have all the necessary licenses, or work really closely with them in terms of our regulation here and what we're required to provide in order to continue to operate here in Australia. But then when it comes to the US as well, we work really closely. It's on a state-by-state basis, which, as you can imagine, every single state has different requirements in terms of how to safely operate within the US. Now, we operate in every single state except for New York. New York requires you to have a BIT license. I won't go into the details too much, but it's incredibly difficult and quite expensive to get. And they make it really difficult. I think maybe only 4 or 5 businesses in the digital asset space actually have that license. So unfortunately, our New York residents can't use Caleb Brown. But in terms of all the other states, you're exactly right. So we work really closely with the governing bodies in each state. Some require you to have licenses. Quite a few of them actually don't as well. If you go onto the Caleb Brown website, you'll see a section there around licenses, and you can see our licensing and registration for every single state. So we're really working really closely with each state to ensure that we continue to have the necessary, requirements in order to operate safely within each state. As you can imagine, this is a growing space where the requirements are changing, especially with the new administration. But I can provide that link so people can have a review through it. But as I mentioned, we've been operating in every single state for quite a while. Unfortunately, New York, we had to make the difficult decision, along with a few other really large crypto markets. It's an unfortunate business decision for us. Obviously, we'd like to continue to operate in those states, but in terms of consumer protection and risk, it's really the number one thing that we think about as a business, and we want to ensure that the clients that do work with us are safe to continue working with us.
Yeah, that's great. And I have had a couple people already email me that unfortunately live in New York, and they said, this is such a bummer. But we know it's not your fault. It's New York. Listen, we live here. New York's got a lot of problems. New York tried to put President Trump in jail. So we're familiar with the problems of New York, let's just say. But that said, do you have one person was hoping I could ask you tonight? Do you have, is there any sort of generalized, is there hope for that being resolved in the future? Any sort of generalized ballpark window of could that ever be resolved?
Yeah, New York's, I would say, so just for context, the UK and the Canadian market were two markets that we exited semi recently as well, which, as you can imagine, the UK especially has a really large crypto presence. Again, that was due to new regulations that came into the UK that made it really difficult to promote cryptocurrency there. I would say the UK and the Canadian market are probably more likely in the short term than New York. So I don't have a set date on New York. Naturally, we have a legal team here that's always reviewing the risks involved, but also just the administrative burden for us to get that bit license. So New York, we do want to continue or provide our services again in the future, but I don't have a set date for New York, unfortunately. If someone's on the call and they're from the UK, I would say that's more likely that we'll be able to operate there again in the future. But again, I don't want to give a set date on these things because I can't give any sort of promises that can't be met. But we're always looking at ways that we can continue to provide our service because we know that people want to use them in these places.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, well, Jacqueline, last name withheld for privacy, but Jacqueline, you're the one who, one of the people that emailed me about that. So there's your answer. The answer is move. Florida is very nice this time of year. Florida and Texas are beautiful. You can get out of that blue state, New York. But hopefully it resolves itself. These things just take time. And anytime there's new technology or something new, the regulators get scared and eventually it works out. So hopefully that works out. But you're in 49 out of 50 states. That's fantastic. And let's talk a little bit more about. And I'm watching the chat too. So if you have questions, I'll try and get your questions up there. I see a lot of you over on Rumble. I can't flash those up on the screen, but I see you over there. Anyway, Jim, let's talk a little bit about, I've said a couple times, I think there's two big things here. The two biggest things that get me really excited about what you do is, number one, the safety. And that's why I even put it in my link, SafewithNoah.com. You can finally do crypto safely, and you don't have to worry about doing it on your phone or on your computer and messing something up, or you don't have to get a computer degree to figure out how to do this stuff. You can just call your broker. So I think that's number one. I love that. It's safe and it's easy with a broker. And then the other thing is I guess having that broker that you can call. Those are the two things that to me are just incredible. But maybe we can talk about the safety a little bit, because I've said a few times, this is safe. But other than me just saying that, and maybe we don't have to get into all of the weeds on how it works, because it's like a computer. I don't need to know how email works to know that my email goes from me to someone else across the world. But maybe on a high level, what kind of things do you guys have in place that allow someone like me to get on this show and say this is safe?
Yeah. So it's a great question. I'll try not to go too detailed. If I do, apologies. But there's two elements to safety, in my opinion. The first one is, okay, how are you actually custodying your crypto assets? So when you purchase them, great, you've made that investment decision. Hopefully that's a great financial decision. But then for us, and really for anyone that's getting into this space, it's about wealth preservation as well. How do I actually protect those assets? So the first part of that is custody, which I'll touch on what we do for custody. The second part as well is, and you mentioned around safety. Look, there are a lot of bad actors in the crypto space. Naturally, for any sort of innovation where there's a financial component, there are going to be people that are trying to, take advantage of that and steal people assets. So there's a lot of security protocols and measures that we have in place as a business to protect your assets with us as well. So the first part is around custody. So if you decide to sign up and create an account with Caliber Brown and invest through us, your assets will be stored in cold storage. And our cold storage solution is created through our partnership with Fireblocks. So Fireblocks are the preeminent custody solution provider in the space. They are used by big banks, the largest crypto institutions, and they have a really institutional grade, high-end cold storage custody solution. And so what that ultimately means is that if you invest and hold assets with Calvin Brown, your assets sit in a cold storage vault. They aren't commingled, they aren't rehypothecated by us. They literally just sit there in cold storage offline until you instruct us to make a trade or withdraw them. That's really valuable. And we've seen in the past, if you invest in, say, an exchange, the example you gave before around FTX, if you hold those assets on that exchange, you're actually in a lot of ways not then the account owner of those assets. And we found that these exchanges are actually using those assets to trade them on elsewhere to earn yields. It's the complete opposite with us. We hold all of our client assets one for one. It literally just sits there. It isn't touched by us. And it just sits there until you decide to do something with those assets. So it gives really great peace of mind.
Yeah. Well, sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to jump in. It's astonishing to me. I mean, I've been in the industry long enough to know that what you're saying is real, but on one level, it just blows my mind to find out that holding the assets one for one in an account marked for you is not the norm everywhere. I mean, if I have my stock somewhere or my assets somewhere, to think that they're being lent out behind my back is just blows my mind. But that is what you're saying is true. That is what's happening. It's what took down FTX. It's what took down Celsius. I've got on the screen here. This is just, look at the date on this, March 6, 2025. The world's number 2 exchange, Bybit, was hacked, and they seem to have maybe recovered, but that was a massive attack. So, this stuff is really serious, and to know that you have it safe and they're not being lent out behind our backs, I can't even imagine that's a problem that people should have to worry about, but they do.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to like the business model of an exchange. And look, I personally had assets on FTX that then I lost, and then have obviously gone through this recovery process over what has felt like 3 or 4 years now. A lot of these exchanges, especially back in 2021, were operating very much like a bank where, look, I hold assets in the bank. That then gives the bank the rights to actually lend out my assets elsewhere. But when you're doing it at the scale of some of these exchanges and they're actually making really risky bets on the other side, if they do blow up, that's where the issues arise. So it's really to do with how a lot of these risk management teams at these exchanges were operating back in the day. But you're exactly right. And that's kind of why we shake our head, because this should be the norm. Wealth preservation, feeling safe with your crypto assets should be the norm, which is why, I think our businesses continue to grow, because people have trust in a service like this. But ultimately, as I mentioned, we don't charge any fees to custody with us. So we don't actually earn any yield at all on protecting your assets. And it's really just an institutional type custody solution that we offer for our clients for free. Now, we're not forcing our clients to use it. Now, we have a lot of clients that believe in not your keys, not your crypto. That's totally fine. In fact, we encourage a lot of our clients to use a cold wallet of their own if they're comfortable to do so. But we often find that people aren't as confident doing the self-custody element. So this is just another option for them to be able to use us if they don't want the headache of, as you mentioned, having a little, a tiny little wallet that you've got to protect yourself, where you ultimately become your own bank. There's a lot of risks associated with that as well. So that's how we operate as a business. And in fact, Noah, something I want to make clear as well is when we execute trades at Calvin Brown, we actually do so with our own working capital. So as a business, we never are relying on client assets to get the trade executed. We'll actually use our own liquidity to go out to the market to execute the trade on your behalf. And we'll ensure in our back end that things are handled and it obviously matches up. But that should give peace of mind to anyone on this call that your assets literally just sit there. It's on chain. You can see that they don't move until you decide to either make a trade or withdraw them out. So that's the first part around safety and custody that is really important. The second element is if, look, you get compromised and Noah has his email hacked, or maybe his phone gets SIM swapped. The way that we operate as a business is we have a whole range of security protocols in place, including verification calls before we'll send out any withdrawals. We have a lot of measures in place to ensure that if the communication with our clients to their brokers is a bit odd or not like it's usually been, that will raise red flags. We have a whole range of security measures in place to ensure that if you're compromised, you feel confident and safe that your assets with us are protected. It comes back to the personalized service, right? A lot of these brokers know these clients. So if they're calling them out of the blue and it doesn't sound like them, or they're getting really odd emails from how they usually interact, that immediately raises red flags for us as a business. So ultimately, those things are all encompassing when it comes to your safety with us. And as a business, we know how important safety of assets and having confidence in a service like ours is important. So we continue to emphasize that, and that ties into everything that we do.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Very, very good. I hope that helps a lot of people understand. That was perfect high level view of that. Um, one other thing you mentioned along the way was um, at times of peak demand. When the market's going crazy. And I've been in this for a long time, and I've seen those. When the market just takes off, it's like clockwork. Coinbase goes down, you can't log in. Some of the other ones go down. Even Uphold, Uphold's been kind of pretty good. It's been one of my favorites, but you can't talk to anyone over there, and even they go down sometimes. And so it's like, well, you've been buying crypto and dollar cost averaging in and doing all this stuff, and then when it finally goes up, you can't even log into your account because it says website down right now, check back later. I've personally experienced that. I know there's probably a lot of people hearing my voice right now. If you've been in it for a while, you've experienced that as well. What I'm saying is true. And if you're new to crypto, just trust me, that will be your experience unless you work with Caleb and Brown. So I love the idea that your website doesn't go down when the markets get hot. I can still call my broker. I can still email my broker. To me, that's really big. And that's maybe something that people don't think about a lot, because for 95% of the time, it's fine. When the market's just kind of slow, of course you can log into Coinbase and you don't think anything of it. But until you live through one of those cycles, you don't know what it's like.
And it's stressful, right? As you mentioned, if you make a really great investment and maybe you want to sell out because the price has gone up really quickly and you can't access your account, there's nothing more stressful than that. I've experienced it myself personally. As you mentioned, and I probably should have made this clear at the start, you can execute all your trades through your broker yourself via email. So you can call them, or you can ultimately just email them with what your trade is, and they'll execute the trade. But you can also do so through our platform as well. So we have a portal that every client gets access to, really clean interface, easy to use, and you can execute the trade yourself. Now, touch wood, we've never really had any issues with our portal going down. So we don't suffer downtime, especially in periods of peak demand. But let's just say in the very unlikely scenario that was to happen, well, it's fine anyway, right? Because you have your broker's email, you have his phone number. So you can always call your broker, even if something else is happening on the portal, which is really valuable. So it means you continue to get trades done, whatever part of the market we're in.
Yeah, I love that. I hadn't thought about that before, but look, I run a website. I know what it's like. Sometimes it's the website goes down, and it's not because of anything you've done. It's because, there's a bunch of different service providers that go into making a website load correctly. And our website's gone down before. And so, even if your portal does go down, I love that. You can still call your personalized broker. You can still email them and get the trades done. So that's fantastic, and something I hadn't really considered, but I love that. So, for me, I'm probably most of the time just going to be logging into the portal myself, and I know what I want to buy or sell and just place the order. To me, that's a nice convenience. I might like to call the brokers from time to time and get their advice, and then I might place the trade myself. But to always know that I have that backup, I think is fantastic.
Yeah, it just comes down to, sorry to cut you off, Noah. It just comes down to client preference, right? Like, you might be on the call right now and you don't want to use the portal. You just want to go directly to your broker. We have a lot of clients that do that. Some clients want to speak to their broker, as you mentioned, but then they want to use the portal themselves. They want to try all the features on it. Maybe they want to read the research reports on there. So it's really a service that's dependent on how you want to use it best. Some people may not even use our custody, as I mentioned. They may use their own cold wallet, but they want to execute the trades with us. Maybe they want to use us as an off ramp where they can withdraw all of their assets at size and not have any limits on that. So it's really just a service dependent on what you want to get out of it. Every single client's going to use it in a different way, but it's really beneficial whichever way you want to use it.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love that. And everybody's different, and so of course everyone's going to use that differently. A couple things just that I've just to kind of tell people that I've learned, even as I've started to use the service, or as people have emailed me these past few days, and we've had hundreds of people jumping into this thing. It's been incredible. I kind of know when we've got something good, but you never quite know until you tell people. And I really thought this was pretty good. And then sure enough, people have been very excited, and hundreds now are coming in. So, but a couple things I've learned just real quick is, like we've said many times, you can call your broker, talk with them. That's a huge benefit. But to actually place a trade, you either need to go into the portal yourself or send an email to your broker because they want that written record. I think that just makes sense. But I had a couple people confused about that, thinking they could just call up and place a trade. You can call up and talk, and then you just need to send that follow-up email to actually order the trade. And then the other thing is, I think this is really cool, and this will tie in maybe to our last topic, and then we might wrap here, but we'll have you back on again, Jim. This has been a lot of fun. But the next topic is kind of around fees and everything else. And what I find incredible is, all of these services are really provided for free, and you have one fee. So there's not a fee for every time you call your broker. There's not a fee for every time you email your broker. There's not a fee for when you transfer money in. There's not a fee for when you transfer money out. But what you might be surprised about is there are just fees upon fees at all these other brokerages. And you don't realize that until the time comes. But, you want to put money in, you want to take money out. I've tested it on Coinbase before. I've tried to take some money out just to make sure it works. And, to their credit, I was able to withdraw money, but I got hit with fees when I sold my crypto. I got hit with fees when I converted it into USDC, and then I converted it into USD, and then when I withdrew it, and it was just fee after fee after fee. And what I love about what you guys do is it's clear and transparent. And then I got hit on the spread. I got a really bad fill. I got a really bad spread price, and they made money on me on the spread. And so you're just gouged with fees. You guys have one fee, and then all this other stuff. The way I look at it is it's provided for free. It's like you said, white glove concierge service. It's call the broker and don't worry about getting a bill in the mail for a 30-minute call. So I think that's cool. Maybe you can speak to that a little bit, and then of course you are in business, so there is one fee. But maybe you can tell people what the one fee is, and then how everything else is really kind of provided as part of the package.
Yeah, so I mean, it really comes down to the transparency side of things. So much in this space is not transparent. And as you mentioned, you get hit with a lot of hidden costs. So some of the things that you'll see potentially on some other platforms is, as Noah mentioned, around the spread. So the difference between the price that you buy at and you sell at. This is not always transparent and clear when you're on these platforms. You also can incur quite significant slippage on a lot of these platforms as well, which will really result in a worse price for you when you either buy this asset and then sell it. So as a business, we think transparency is king. We want the price that you're being charged to be as fair and clear as possible. So we only charge one fee, and it's a transparent flat fee of 3.5%. And that's just on a buy, sell, or swap. So anytime that you do the trade of an execution with us, you'll be charged a 3.5% fee. But as Noah mentioned, there are no other fees. So we aren't charging you to speak to your broker. So you can call your broker when you please. There are no custody fees as well. So as we mentioned at the start, it's an institutional grade custody that we provide free of charge for our clients. We just think that's part of the service that every crypto investor should have. Another really important thing that, as Noah mentioned as well, withdrawal fees and limits. So we won't charge you any fees to withdraw your assets to your bank account or to your own wallet. Let's just say that you have a really great trade of, you're up 500K in your XRP asset. You decide to sell it into US dollars. That 500K of US dollars that you're hoping to withdraw to your US bank account, we see on a whole range of other platforms that they'll limit you to say 20K a day. As you can imagine, it's going to take you a very long time to get that 500K all processed into your bank account. You'll also probably be charged a fee every time you do that withdrawal. With us, it's completely different. So that entire 500K profit of US dollars, we'll process that transaction in one go to your bank account, and we won't charge you any fee for that. So being able to exit an off-ramp without fees is really important, and it's something that most people don't realize until they're actually ready to sell, which makes sense. I've been there as well, but it's really important to have an off-ramp capability like ours to be able to do that. So the 3.5% is no hidden costs. It's transparent. You'll see it on your platform. Your brokers will make mention of it. And ultimately, once you factor in for those hidden costs that you'll see on other exchanges, it's a very competitive rate, and ensures that you are well looked after with us.
Yeah, well, I can personally attest to that because I have gone through the process. I've not sold most of my crypto that I bought. I've just been buying and holding it, but I have tested it a little bit, like I said, on Coinbase, and so I've gone through that process, and I it was like 3 different layers of fees that I kept getting hit with, and I went back and looked at my account, and I started adding those up and looking at how it compares to yours, and it was comparable, if not worse, than your flat fee, and I think people, it's like airlines, right? It's like, okay, oh, you can get a $99 ticket to Las Vegas, but then it's a $50 baggage fee, and then it's $75 early boarding, and it's like all of a sudden your $99 fee turns out to be $500, and so I think people really will appreciate that. Maybe we'll have you back on at some point and even put some examples out there, because I think people would be shocked to learn when they finally go to sell. If they're on a Coinbase or something, they're gonna get you coming and going. They're gonna get you left and right on those fees, and they add up. And in some cases, they were back looking at my account, they were higher than 3.5%. So, well, anyway, Jim, this has been great. I think we've done a great job answering most of the questions. I did have this one pop up. Mary, she says, if it's similar to depositing money in a bank, would we earn interest on the money invested? Jim spoke about that a little bit. What they don't lend your stuff out, so they're not taking your crypto and lending it out and trying to earn yield on your crypto. So Jim, maybe you can speak to that. But it's just held one for one, just like if you own. I would say, and I'll let Jim answer it, but I would say, imagine you own 100 shares of Apple stock, right, with your stockbroker. The stockbroker's not paying you yield on that. They're just holding that safely and securely in your brokerage account. And that it's there whenever you go to want to sell it. But maybe you can speak to that briefly there, Jim.
Yeah, exactly right. So Mary, we just hold, we're currently just doing spot. So which means we just hold client assets in the spot market. We don't offer any staking or yield at this stage. Obviously, it's always something that we get asked. So as a business, we're looking into how we can do so safely. We don't want to compromise our cold storage solution that we offer the clients. We don't want to do offer yield at the expense of that. So we want to ensure that it's safe. In terms of if you want to deposit money from, say, your bank account into Caleb & Brown and you're holding the US dollars with us, unfortunately, there's no interest that's earned on that. A lot of the time, if our clients are depositing US dollars from their bank account with us, it's to make a trade and buy a crypto asset. We do have clients that will hold USDC or USDT with us, and they're just waiting for the right moment to maybe enter the market. But certainly, if you're just going to hold onto US dollars and wait for the right time, it may just make more sense to hold those assets still in your bank until you're ready to make the trade. But ultimately, if you do want to hold those assets with us, because sometimes banks take a while to deposit funds like US dollars, you can hold those US dollars with us until you're ready to make the trade. So unfortunately, no yield earned, but it gives you the safety and peace of mind that your assets are protected with us, as Noah mentioned.
Yeah, and really a great question, Mary, because this is just me talking, but I do think that's coming. And a lot of platforms will allow you to do that right now. You say, stake your XRP or stake your whatever, and you can get a yield. I've dipped my toe in that water in the past, and it's always just made me nervous, because if I'm getting yield, that means my assets are going somewhere, and it just makes me really nervous. They're going out somewhere to do some work and try and get yield, and I'm just not confident they're going to come back. So I think eventually that's coming to the industry on a whole. And I think eventually people like Caleb & Brown will figure out how to do that safely and securely. And, I think there's possibly a future where, you don't, if you do really well and you hold your, Bitcoin or your XRP long-term, you might not even have to sell that asset. You might just be able to stake it or lend it out or get yield or do something. I think that's all coming. I've just never been confident that it could be done safely right now. And so I'm actually very excited for a future just listening to you talk there, Jim. I think there's a future where that is real. And I'm going to be part of that future. And I'm going to do it on a platform like Caleb & Brown. I'm not going to do it on a platform like Coinbase. So when I see these guys get comfortable with it and tell me they know how to do it safely and securely, that's when I'm signing up.
Yeah, what I would say about staking in general is be incredibly careful what platforms and what asset you're staking. So as an example, the Ethereum chain and the DeFi capabilities there are very advanced. They've been in the space for a long time. So Lido is probably one of the best examples. We see Aave, which is a big DeFi player in the space. They have genuine capabilities and legitimate ways for you to earn yields on your Ethereum. Where you don't want to get unstuck is if it's an asset like XRP, which doesn't have proof of stake mechanism. And we're starting to see more and more platforms start to offer yield on XRP. You want to be incredibly cautious because ultimately what they're doing is loaning out your XRP to earn the yield elsewhere in order to pay you your yields, which incorporates a whole range of counterparty risk. If it's going into a contract risk as well. So I would be really conscious and do your due diligence before putting your assets into any staking protocol. I mean, you're speaking from someone from experience that was staking on Celsius, was staking on what was a whole range of other platforms, essentially BlockFi, Luna Classic. They've become and gone so many staking protocols, which ultimately went under. So what I would suggest for anyone on the call that is interested to earn yield on their assets is do your due diligence. If you're a client of CMB, you can reach out to your broker to get their guidance. Everyone that works here is very across all the different staking mechanisms and protocols, but be incredibly conscious when it comes to staking is my piece of advice.
Well, I love that. And I think that's a perfect way to end tonight. And like I said, Jim, we'll have you back on. I think you're good luck too, because in just about the hour before you started coming on, Bitcoin's jumped up $2,500. So we're seeing a little mini boom right now, which is awesome. Just about ready to go over 100,000 again. So maybe you're good luck. But I think that was a great way to end because it was almost like a little mini window of what you're going to get when you talk to your broker. I mean, that was educational even for me. And I feel like I've been around the space for a long time, but it's that level of insight and that level of, hey, if you're going to do this, be careful about X, Y, and Z, because this is where the risk is. And unless you're very familiar with crypto, you don't know that. So you don't know that, maybe it's really dangerous right now to stake your XRP, but, staking Ethereum is different. That's the kind of advice and conversations that you're going to have with your broker. So I think that was just a perfect, and really the whole show here tonight has been great with that type of insight and education. But seeing that in action at the end, I think is just a perfect snapshot of what I've already experienced talking with my broker and what I've heard from so many of you. So if you're interested in that type of help and that type of insight, including market research, you'll get a weekly newsletter. You'll get if you say you are interested in XRP, your broker can share you XRP specific market research. Here's where we think it's going. Here's what we think are reasonable price targets. Here's what we think. If you think it's going this high, that might be unreasonable. Those kind of things. You can get all of that. And so I think that was really great. Jim, thank you so much for coming on the show. I think we've answered just about every other question that's popped up along the way just in doing this. So we'll have you back on again soon. We'll talk about just the markets in general. But thanks so much for coming on.
No worries, Noah. Thanks for having me on. Really excited about this partnership. And as you mentioned, I'll come on again. So if there's a question that maybe didn't get answered today, more than happy to come on and speak to anything else related to crypto. And then also you can find me on Twitter if you want to DM and ask anything specifically about Caleb Brown as well. Always happy to answer any questions online as well. So thanks for having me and looking forward to more shows in the future.
Perfect. All right, everybody. If you want to get to my custom page, make sure you're in the right spot. The link is on the screen. I'll also put it down below, SafewithNoah.com. That's safe for safety, SafewithNoahcom. All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks. Bye-bye.